Senator Back.
Mr Deputy President, why do the Labor opposition keep giving us these opportunities? I just can't believe it. It started the other day with an MPI from Senator Moore and it just gets better. Isn't it amazing what an expert Senator Conroy is in opposition? What an amazing expert in submarines he is in opposition. What a shame, Senator Conroy, through you, Deputy President, that he didn't say too much when he was a senior minister. As my leader has just said, if there's a capability gap, I think it's between Senator Conroy's left ear and his right ear. But nevertheless, I think the jokes about a hunt for Red October will start to flow out. But isn't it also incredible, Deputy President, how the now leader of the opposition, Mr Shorten, seemed to be very, very silent when he was a senior minister. Senator Abetz, through you, Deputy President. Here he was on the 7th of September demanding the government keep promise to build submarines in South Australia. Where was he? Where was he when Mr Rudd was Prime Minister? When Ms Gillard was Prime Minister? When Mr Rudd was Prime Minister again? Where was he? Keeping Mr Rudd up to his promise, saying, and I quote, a Labor government would ensure the submarines were built by ASC at its Port Adelaide site, with construction to begin in 2017. Where were you, through you, Senator Deputy President? Where were you, Senator Conroy? Where were you when Mr Rudd ripped $20 billion out of the defence project? Where were you? And the amazing poor old Mr Shorten didn't realise that his good mate, Labor MP Mr David Feeney, was going to be standing behind him at the great rally at ASC, because it was poor old David Feeney that belled the cat. He was at the rally and I quote said, Australia's shipbuilding and submarine building industry were now at the crossroads. You bet they're at the crossroads, Mr Deputy President. And who put them there? Who put them in the Conroy cul-de-sac? Who put them in the Feeney dead end? It was the Labor government of the day. Not only did they take $20 billion out of the submarine contract with the complicit involvement of the Labor South Australian government. Don't forget that they were involved in this, Senator Conroy, while you turn your back to this discussion. Don't worry too much about that. They then turned around and took another $16 billion. Another $16 billion, much of which would have gone to the South Australian Defence Procurement and Materiel Organisation. I now turn to the comments made by Senator Johnson in response to the pathetic questions by the Leader of the Opposition in the Senate, Senator Wong, and her Deputy, Senator Conroy. What Senator Johnson indicated, Deputy President, was two things. First of all, his intimate knowledge of matters defence and particularly submarine. Questions were asked of him. Why did he make certain observations? Why did others? The explanation, through you, Deputy President, to those in the public gallery would be, when a responsible government leaves government, you would expect there to be well-formed plans into the future as to what something as important as a procurement program for a replacement for the Collins-class submarine would be well-formed, well-developed, and there for a new government to pick up and to carry on with or without modifications. When Senator Johnson, as Defence Minister, picked up that file, it was empty. It was empty. Don't worry too much about the protestations of the people from the other side. Why, I ask you, through you, Deputy President, I ask Senator Conroy and I ask others, Senator Wong, a South Australian senator, a finance minister of the day, why was there no further planning or future plans for that gap in capability once the Collins-class submarine was to be replaced? It was Senator Johnson who, in opposition, was so well versed in his portfolio that he was able to tell us here today the downtime of the Australian Collins-class, the German submarine, the Japanese submarines. 8 months, I think he said, for the Japanese, 11 months for the German, 18 months for the Collins-class. Deputy President, let us not forget, whilst we move towards the white paper, that the estimate for the replacement submarines, should they be built in Australia exclusively, would be some $40 billion. The figures that I have seen available to me, and I believe they're in the public arena, for German or Japanese submarines are half of that price. I defer again to my colleague Senator Fawcett, a man with an enormous amount of experience in this field, who has spoken, of course, of the fact that the Collins-class submarine, initially designed by the Swedish, with Swedish involvement, US involvement, French involvement, And of course it's Senator Fawcett very, very wisely is saying that that type of process can work into the future for the benefit of Australia
Senator,
and
your
South
time
Australia.
has expired.